We asked you, I have one or two geek questions because I'm a hack guitarist. What was the guitar that you saw as a kid that blew your mind? Was there?
Well, my father played a Flying V, and he had a 1966 or something Flying V.
Yeah.
And purple, very cool, with like an 1890s Indian head silver dollar, which people used to put in the back of Flying V's because the headstocks
as a counterweight.
Yeah, because the headstocks are so heavy, the guitar always wants to rotate forward.
Yes, yeah.
And so my dad, high on whatever he was on, with a very 70s mustache, that was the guitar,
Were you allowed to touch that?
No, I was not.
Okay.
I was not. He forbid me to touch the instrument.
Wow.
So I was only allowed to look.
I have to say that the couple of times I've strapped on a Flying V, I've found it a very uncomfortable experience, and it
is very uncomfortable.
And so then, what did you move on to a Les Paul?
My father got me a Korean-made Les Paul copy, as it's known in the business. So it looks like a Les Paul, but it's some badly made one. I had that. I painted it black, sold it to a drug dealer. And then I had a Fender Mustang that my father gave me.
Mm-hmm.
I played that for a while, but it had very weak pickups, couldn't get the grunge sound.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jimmy Chamberlin showed up one day with a 1974 yellow Strat. Yellow, definitely not my color, but Richie Blackmore did play that guitar, so that was okay. And Jimmy said, "I'll sell it to you for $270.
Right.
Even at the kind of an odd number, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I later found out because that's how much he needed for rent.
Yeah, it had to be for something specific.
And then fast forward 20 years, I'm walking down the street in Chicago, and a guy pulls me aside and says, "Do you still have that yellow guitar?" And I said, "No, that's the one that got stolen." I don't know if you heard that story. Somebody found it 27 years later and came back to me. But at that
Did they want to resell it to you?
No. This guy pulled me aside and said, "Do you still have that guitar?"
Right.
And I said, "No." And he goes, "But you got it from Jimmy Chamberlin, right?" Yeah. He said, "How much did he charge you for it?"
Oh.
And I go, $270. He goes, "Yeah, he stole that guitar from me."
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
He wasn't mad because he loved Jimmy. It was some weird story, like kid story, where Jimmy had stolen the guitar and sold it to me for rent money. And that was the guitar that I played on the band's first records. And that guitar got stolen, some sort of weird karmic thing. Came back 27 years later.
It's gonna reappear in your life at some point. Oh, you did get it?
Yeah. A gentleman out of Nashville, somebody contacted him, and he, bless his heart, got the guitar back. He obviously played some money, didn't ask me for any money, just gave me the guitar back.
That's great.
After 27 years.
I like that.
That's cool.
Had it been altered much?
No, surprisingly not.
I remember very well that the first electric guitar I got was, I think I paid $600 for it, and it was 1985. And that was an incredible amount of money.
That's a lot of money still.
It's a lot, yeah.
What was your guitar?
Well, that's it. It was a 64 Gretsch Tennessean.
Oh, nice.
And so actually for the money, it turned out to be an amazing investment.
It's worth a lot now. Do you still have it?
I have it hanging up on the wall behind me.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it at Saturday Night Live when George Harrison stopped by to say hi to all of us after a night of partying with Lorne. And it was in my office, and it's the exact same year and model that George played on the tour. And for a second, I thought about running down and getting that guitar and showing it to him. And then I thought, don't be that guy.
Yeah.
So
that's one of those judgment calls.
I think I made the right call.
Yeah.
I think at that moment that was the right call, because to a geek like me, it was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll show George the same make and model guitar. And he would have seen a kid with some acne who was undernourished and a big pile of hair on his head shoving a guitar at him, when he could probably open a closet at home and 700 Gretches will fall out. So,
want to hear a quick funny story?
No, I don't have time for that.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes, please.
So, Jack Bates plays in the Pumpkins. He plays bass. His father is Peter Hook of Joy Division and New Order fame. And they were touring, and they had rented a Vox amp, and the amp blew up, and it was from a rental company. So they knew not to just take the amp back to the rental company. They took it somewhere to be repaired before they returned it to the rental company. And when the guy took the chassis off, they found scratched into the mainframe George Harrison.
Oh, for God's sake.
It was one of George's amps that had been stolen in '68 that he'd played on like Revolver. And people thought it was lost forever. And so then it was returned back to the rental company, who then sold it for, some ungodly sum. But it's a cool story.
I was in Nashville, and there was a famous guitar shop that I was touring.
Gruhn's Guitars.
Gruhn's, yeah. And
I've spent a few dollars in Gruhn's.
Well, they tried to get me to spend a few dollars. At one point, they showed me, because I'm a Buddy Holly fanatic, and they showed me an amp that belonged to Buddy, and they were showing it to me, and then they took it off, and they showed me where Buddy had put his, written. And then...
Did you buy it?
Well, I was fascinated by it, and they let me plug it in, and I got to play That'll Be the Day on a Stratocaster through that amp. And so I was just, pure joy was coming out of my pores. And then they told me
how much it was,
what they wanted for it. And I realized I could get this. I mean, Buddy owned it, but other than that, it's a fair to Midland old,
sure,
and amp. And I could get that, or I could put one of my kids through college. And so I think I made the wise decision.
I bought it at auction. So in 1982, I went to see Judas Priest play.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at a racetrack, which eventually burned down. And when I was in there, it felt like a fire trap. It was one of those things where you're looking around and go, if something goes wrong here, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
But it's Judas Priest.
Yeah.
And
so what a way to go.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Judas Priest in 82, not a bad way to go. So I bought the pedal board that KK Downing was using that day, and the amp that he was playing. Those came up for auction. So I bought those.
That's cool.
So it's like a cool, like, it's like if you told me at 14 or something, by the way, one day you're going to own that amp and that pedal board from that guy who you adore.
Yeah.
Not a bad gig, right?
No, it's like in a weird way, you're closing some mystical loop.
Yes, that's how I feel. That's why I would be happy if you had bought the amp, because there's something that happens when you do stuff like that. It makes no sense at all, but it sort of confirms some other thing.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you that you're weak. And,
yeah. My only real regret in that regard was I was at an auction once, but we were shooting something at a rock and roll auction. Elvis Aaron Presley's library card from Humes High School came up on the block, and I was busy trying to position the cameras and wasn't listening. And then I looked, and they were like, going once, going twice, and they didn't get the amount they wanted, so they took it off the auction, and I don't know where it is now. But I would have paid a lot of money to have had that in my wallet for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And missed it. And so if it's whoever owns it, let me know, because you name the amount, and I'll pay it.
Less than Buddy Holly's amp. So.
No. It's all different now. My kids don't need to learn how to read.